Welcome to the latest episode of Platform Podcast. Today's episode is Mike McMullen. You may not be familiar with Mike unless you've watched the recent Sunday Brunch videos, but I guarantee you'll be familiar with his work. Over the years, he has worked with some of the biggest brands in blading. He designed skins for Valo. I'm not sure which ones, but I'm going to find out in this episode. And he was also responsible for helping design the launch of them skates. From what I understand, John Julio approached him to do the branding. So I'm pretty sure he came up with like the font and the idea to use the four wheels and the initial blue that they went with. I also know that he's done considerable work with Sunday Brunch. I think they've had 3 full-length videos so far, at least through 3 full-length videos. And they've had their own clothing line and they've had their own skate with them skates. So Mike has done a bunch of stuff. I also know he came up in the Atlanta scene, so I don't know at which point he moved to California, but again, something else to find out. And years ago, if you remember Blogspot, Lonnie Gallegos had one from when he was working on the Fade Nation series, and he put up a photo of someone that had defaced the Anti-Hero Skateboards headquarters, and it was, I can't remember what the logo was, but basically it was their logo, and he'd spray painted wheels at the bottom to make it look like rollerblades. I'm pretty sure Mike McMullen is responsible for that, although I haven't had it confirmed. I did have a little bit of a nosy around his Instagram earlier, and he does have that image on there. So I'm willing to bet he's the man responsible. So want to find out about that. I'm also curious to know what other brands he's worked with, because I know he's worked with John Starr on various things over the years. So I think he might have had some involvement in other companies in blading. So yeah, loads to chat about. Before that though, cue the music.
Yo.
That's like...
Look, I should have worn that one. We could have matched. I can go put it on.
No, now we're just advertising the whole range. This episode's sponsored by them. I'd just like to thank them for hooking me up.
Yeah, exactly.
All I had to do was go on their website, buy something, and they just sent it to me. It was the best hookup ever.
Amazing. I've got a stack, of all of them, which with having a new baby, I'm just like popping a fresh shirt every morning. Like, here we go. Here's the next one.
Just getting, yeah, that's what I was, congratulations. So you've got a son now, is that right?
I do. We had our son last Sunday, August 21st. So it's super exciting. It was a stressful few days at the hospital. We had like kind of a crazy birth, but everything else has been fantastic. Like our pregnancy was amazing. The birth was a little scary, but everyone's safe. Baby's home. He's killing it. He's like sleeping really well. He's super happy. So can't complain.
Wow. That's what I was going to say. You don't even look remotely broken. For the first year and a half my daughter was born, I'd be lucky if there were some nights she slept like for 45 minutes at a time. I was like, I'm going to die.
Yeah, we're going through a little bit of that. He sleeps like a champion all day. And then from like midnight to like 5 a.m., the past maybe 4 or 5 days, he's just been up and like, he's not crying. He's just up and like, why, like doing stuff. And we're like, go to sleep. Last night he slept from 10:30 till 3:30 in the morning, which was bliss. So okay. That's probably why I look a little fresher than I have the last few days.
Right. Yeah. For that first year, I just looked like I was on a come down from like the most insane party ever for yeah. I would drive to work and be like, don't know how I got here. Do not remember the journey here at all.
Yeah. I'm going through a little bit of it. It's like, I just started a new job too. So all this stuff happened kind of at once. And I'm like, I'll get up in the middle of the night to take him to like change him or something, and wake up in the morning and my wife would be like, oh yeah, thanks, for handling that changing at like whatever 2 or 3 a.m. And I'm like, what? When did I got up? She was like, yeah, you got up. But it's like, it's such a, I hate to be cliche. It's so joyful. It's so blissful. Like, I'm 40 years old, so to wait till I was 40 to have a kid feels right, Like, I can't complain. I'm not like, oh, I'm missing out on my party days or like, going skating or anything. I'm totally ready for it.
This is true. See, yeah, like we had our kid like in our mid-30s, and everyone was still kind of going out and stuff, and we both were like, God, we've been left behind by our friends, like they've just given up on us. But yeah, you've definitely reached the better end of it. Although when your kid's legal and you want to take him out for a drink, you're going to be in your 60s, man.
That's right. I'm going to look like a wizard. That's what I'm going for. I'm going for all white beard, all white hair. I just want to look like what's his name from Harry Potter. That's what I'm going for. What's the Harry Potter wizard's name?
Really, this is the disturbing point where I announced.
I'm not big on the whole thing.
Yeah,
that's what I want to look like.
I don't know any of the characters. I know Harry. I've never watched Harry Potter. All that kind of stuff.
I hope I achieve at 60. I hope I look like a wizard. That's what I'm going for.
Okay. Well, you've already got the beginnings of the hippie look down. You've got the long hair and the beard, so I can't quite rock that look, but if I could, I would. I also saw that Kevin Dowland's already been to visit. Man, he is efficient.
Yeah. Well, Kevin had to be out here for an award ceremony that he was a part of for location awards, which in 2018 he came out and took me as his date. So he brought his wife this time, which I was a little jealous, but I told her she had to live up to how good I looked with him in the photos.
And she has to put out, so she has to get him drunk, and she has to have sex with him just like you did. Otherwise, disappointment.
Yeah, exactly. Put out. It's important for a date. Yeah, they randomly were just here for that, and Kevin hit me up a few days before, or like a week or two before, and was like, I'm going to be there for this award show, and our son was born a week late from our due date, so it was really pushing it. I mean, they got to meet him, and he was like 6 days old, which was incredible. I was there when Kevin's son was born. I was there and got to see him the first day, so it was a nice exchange. That like Kevin's son is 16 now, 16, which is fucking crazy to me. Yeah, but yeah, it was good. It was good for him and Brielle to be able to see our son and exchange that moment. It was really lovely.
Does that mean he saw your son before your families did?
Yeah. But he's my family, that's my brother.
This is true. Yeah.
Kevin's been my little brother since we were, I don't know, I think we met in 96. So him, Walt, and I have all been friends since like 1996. So he's their family.
That's what I was going to ask, because I knew you were from Atlanta originally, but I didn't know how far back you went. Like, I didn't know if you were like that generation or if you'd started skating with because obviously I remember like when I started, it was like Frankie Lascavio making the edits that would appear in like VG and stuff like that. And then obviously Andy Cruz and like Tom Heiser and those guys. But yeah.
Funny tie-in there. So I actually started skating in North Carolina. I grew up in Asheville, North Carolina, which now there's a pretty great skate scene there. I think, Krob and my buddy Eric Piper, who actually grew up with me in Atlanta as well. There's a bunch of dudes in Western North Carolina that skate now that are in Asheville. But I started skating there like 93, 94. Was like my first times like doing a practice rail or something, grinding a curb. And then my family moved from North Carolina to Atlanta, and I was living like my house in Georgia was right behind my high school, and I went to my high school all summer long to skate the benches in the front of the high school. And randomly met Walt one day. I roll up and Walt's like just zooming past, doing alley porn stars, like, grinding like better than anybody I'd met so far on skates. And I was like, who's this guy? And we started hanging out, and he introduced me to Kevin. So we've known each other for a really long time, but with we ended up meeting Tom and Andy and Frankie. And funny story, Frankie actually wrote my recommendation letter for art school. He graduated from the same art school that I went to in Atlanta, and I studied under the same professor as him. So him and Tom Heiser both went to Atlanta College of Art, and that's where I graduated from. So they were a huge influence on me to go to art school, and were a big part of it. So me working at Skate Pile with those guys was like a huge part of getting into art school and having that push. So yeah, we've been tied together with all those guys for so long.
Okay. Right. So you've worked at Skate Pile, John Starr's worked. Is there anyone that's like been through the Atlanta scene that hasn't worked there?
I mean, everybody kind of did, because when it started, it was like the skate scene in Atlanta was Tom, Andy, and Frankie. And when we kind of came up, they were like our older brothers, because those guys are just a couple years older than me. So they kind of like raised us up, showed us the scene. And when Skate Pile first started, it was just a small shop inside of a skate park. And, it was an online thing. And then when they expanded and like we got bigger, they hired all of us. We were like, Walt was, we called him a pack monkey. He would just climb up the shelves in the back and like grab t-shirts off the top. And like, I was working customer service. So, half of the rollerblading scene at that time, I was talking to on the phone. I'd talk to Broskow and Farm, and like all those guys would be calling in and ordering stuff, or their, people's parents would call, and you'd see the last name. And you're like, oh my God, that's, so-and-so's mom or dad on the phone with me. So everybody who came through the scene ended up, kind of getting a part-time job. We were all in the back putting together physics frames, like an assembly line. It was a community thing, which was awesome.
Yeah, Also, I always kind of just think of Atlanta as having like a big scene because it had such a history and because it featured in so much kind of media over the years, like, the hoaxes, the VGs, the USD tour videos, oh God, what was the event that they always had? My mind's just gone blank. It's not Better Cold. It's, what was that called? Super Hick.
Oh yeah, Super Hick. Oh wow, yeah, those were great.
Wow. I was like, I'm not going to remember this. So it's like, you kind of made it sound as if it was quite a small scene, but it's produced some like incredibly memorable, internationally known figures.
Yeah. I mean, like J-Bob, like his mom used to drop him off with me and Kevin for like the day. She'd just be like, I don't even know, like maybe Julian was like 14 or 15, and she'd just drop him off with me and Kevin, and like we'd go to the skate park, we'd take him with us places, or like, Sizemore, dude. Sizemore was like tiny at the skate park. Like there's some legendary people that came out of it too. I think to me, it felt small up until we started doing the things like Super Hick. Because then we were letting people in,
Yeah.
And then the whole scene started to come to Atlanta, which really, really opened things up. But we had a great relationship with all the guys who skated in North Carolina, like Dre and Kenny, and all the guys from Charlotte, Joe Dobson.
Because like Will Gordon and all those guys were coming through as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had a really good relationship early on with them, and it was almost more like the South rather than Atlanta to me. Right. It was like, because we'd get guys that come from Tennessee, guys from Bama, Trace Taylor, Rod Thompson, Dunkel, all the North Carolina and South Carolina guys. So it really kind of felt like we had our own scene, which we weren't trying to be rivals of the West Coast, but we weren't California. So
yeah,
we kind of thought of it, like I thought of it as like a small scene until it really opened up. But Atlanta itself, I mean, shit, of like the 10 or 12 guys that we skated with regularly, it felt small, but now it doesn't. Now it seems like it's huge.
Yeah. I always kind of wondered what the dynamic of that was like, because I've got family from America and I've visited the States, and different states are like different countries. Like, I've been to New York, which is very urban and fast paced and feels incredibly like first world and modern. But then I've also been to the Bible Belt and like I've got family that live in like Omaha, Nebraska and stuff like that, which basically feels like, you know, traveling back in time like 10-15 years compared to like it feels like just a bigger version of Scotland. It's like Scotland with massive Wendy's signs. It's not like, it doesn't feel like America at all.
And that's a pretty good description.
And there's like churches everywhere. So I just kind of wonder what it was like, because with Atlanta being so like metropolitan and urban and like quite a lot going on, and then all these guys coming from like presumably much smaller, more rural, like small town areas, like what was that like when they flooded into the city? Because that must have been quite eye-opening for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta's got such good skate spots. So I think it was just kind of like, that was the easy one to get to for everybody. I think Charlotte has really good skate spots too. And so did Bama and Mississippi and Tennessee and everywhere. But I think Atlanta had it. This seems to be like something that's happening now too. So it's like kind of a good correlation, but having a skate shop makes the scene grow. Because if you can come into town and all of your shit's broke down, you got, janky wheels and you need new frames, and like you can go somewhere and go to the shop and get some new stuff, or maybe get put on flow or whatever. It's like, I think having Skate Pile drew everybody in, and Tom and Andy did such a good job of being sort of like the recruiters, and me and Kevin and Walt and Kurt and, all the other guys were more like the like welcoming committee, because we were the ones that were going to like take them out and take them to spots. But I think Tom and Andy and those guys really made it so that when people visited, they had like, they wanted to go to Skate Pile. You'd stop at the shop, everyone was eager to get something for free or go in the back and see what they could pick out, or it's, I think that really helps the scene grow. And what I'm seeing now is LA, with us having the Them shop, it's like people come here and they're like, oh shit, I can like try on skates, I can put on a t-shirt and see how it fits, and it really makes, like, a skate shop is such an essential thing. That's when I first moved to Atlanta. I think it was like maybe just Andy and Frankie worked at this skate shop called Asphalt Flight School. There's an ad for it in one of the older VGs, and it's like, or maybe not an ad for it, there's an ad for, it's like a K2 ad where like Andy and Tom are skating this like little wooden mini ramp inside of a shop.
Okay.
So when I first moved to Atlanta, all I knew was Hooks 2. I knew the Bell South rails. I knew like, the box rails there. And I begged my dad, like, when we drove into the city, take me by those rails. I want to see it. Take me to Asphalt Flight School. I bought my very first issue of Daily Bread and a t-shirt. And I was like, I'm here. I've arrived. Like, I live in a city that has a skate shop. Like, what? This is crazy. Because in North Carolina, you could get K2s and like the Hoax or Hoax 2 or whatever at like a ski shop. But that was it. It was like they would have like the K2 skate and like a video.
Yeah.
But it was at like a ski and mountain bike shop or whatever. So it wasn't like skate shop centric,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. The first time I walked into the skate shop, I was like, my mind is fucking blown. I'm literally I'm in a world of blading right now. This entire room is dedicated to rollerblading. That's mental. Yeah.
It really, like, I mean, I think seeing the spots that I saw in Hoax 2 in the Atlanta section in real life I moved to Atlanta like the summer before '96, and I drove by those spots and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm going to get to go skate real street, like I'm going to get to go like to these spots and maybe I'll meet these guys. And like, not only did that happen, like I met those guys became my good friends. I worked with them. They helped raise us up. They helped make our scene, and they gave us the confidence to make our own scene. So it's so essential. I mean, like, having a skate shop in your town or nearby, I think just draws people in. And that's what happened with Skate Pile. And I think that's the big catalyst. We had a skate shop and we had a badass indoor skate park. And like, what more do you need?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a plethora of street spots that like everybody wanted to skate.
Plus, if one's successful, like if the shop's successful, that benefits the skate park and vice versa. Like if there starts becoming like a kind of a flood of people going in, they're going to need stuff, and where are they going to get this? So, plus those guys were like big personalities. Like Kevin Dowling is a loudmouth and he's funny, and Walt Austin is very opinionated and very outspoken, and they're both great skate. Like how Austin never got a pro skate. Austin never got a pro skate is beyond me.
He did actually. He got like
that doesn't count. Don't talk about
it doesn't
shop
count.
process.
I was going to say like
that doesn't count.
It doesn't count at all because they basically just put other pieces of someone else's skate. I think it might have been Abdiel's or somebody's something like a throne together, and he got chipped. But like that's the thing is like that might have been a lot of like the fuel for the fire that made the Atlanta scene bigger was we felt a little bit like the underdogs because we had a great scene and we had tons of good skaters, but like the only people who were getting sponsored were from New York or Cali. That was it. Yeah. Like other than maybe Dre, but Dre is, Dre. So that doesn't count. But I think
plus I feel like Dre was an exception to the rule because Dre put himself out there a lot more. I feel like quite a lot of the Atlanta guys were like, no, I'm staying here and I'm going to try and make a name for myself here. Whereas Dre was like, I'm leaving. Like, I'm getting out of here. It's like the Jeff Frederick thing. Like, Jeff Frederick was like, it's not going to work in Philly, so I'm going to travel everywhere. And he was out in Cali all the time.
Yeah. I mean, Dre is just such a big personality that like he was ready. He was ready for the camera. Always, since day one, since the first day I met that kid, it was like he was born to be in front of the camera, whether it was on skates or just being himself. But I think it's crazy that Walt never got a pro skate. It's fucking nuts. But we hold him in such high regard, and he would tell like, and I know this because he never wanted to be talked up. He never wanted that. He was never like wanted to glow. He just kind of wanted to do his own thing. And he's still that way today. He doesn't want anyone to toot his horn for him. Yeah. So I won't toot his horn for him here, just in case he is watching this. I will.
Okay. He randomly contacted me I'd never had any contact with him, never heard from him before. And then he randomly contacted me recently to ask about a song or if it had been used in a section before. But one thing I will, in the MySpace days, I'm showing my age now, I will never forget like the bio thing that Walt Austin had for himself, and it was like, I quit skating years ago, but I could still come back and kill all of you anytime I want. And I was like, yeah,
never quit.
He basically said like he hadn't skated in years, but I don't know how much of it was true and how much it was just him being antagonistic. But I will never forget that.
He's that way. I think he's always been like the sort of antagonist of this whole thing, just because like he's always thought of skating in his own, like he's in his own lane. He still is, that section that I just edited for him for brunch that we released. It's like he's so in his fucking own lane that like I don't think he even needs to worry about being compared or whether anyone thinks he's good. Like he doesn't give a shit. He knows he's doing what he does, like I don't think he cares at all.
Yeah.
But we like, growing up with him, it's like, it's funny. My background is in, graphic design and art. And that's the thing that I quickly realized, like, okay, well, I'm not as good as these guys on the skates. So how can I participate and make an impact? Because I was so inspired by all the stuff I grew up with, Senate, Medium, and all the video stuff and all the like advertising and things that went into videos and magazines back then. The first like summer that Kevin and Walt and I all knew each other, I started a clothing company called Economy, and I sponsored Walt right away. And Kevin got mad because I didn't sponsor him until like a couple weeks later. Right. So, it's been like since day one, like I've always known that Walt was really special and he was going to make an impact on the skates. So yeah,
that's
sponsoring him forever. I've been giving him my clothes forever too. Like if you ask him, he's sponsored by me since back in the day. Like I give him all my like hand-me-down clothes.
Are you not like significantly taller than Walt?
he wears big shit. He's always like, I've always been like, what do you need, dude? I got this shirt, I got this. Go through my closet, take whatever you want.
You're wearing something that relatively fits, and he looks like he's wearing his dad's clothes. Sweet.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. That's interesting what you say though. It is true. Like even not even necessarily people that are like, oh, I'm not good enough to, I don't know, make it as a skater or whatever. Just I feel like lots of people get to a stage where they're like, I want to find a way to contribute. And some people it's with their skating ability. Some people they're like, well, like for me, I'm an absolute nerd and like did journalism for years, and I was like, I want to do like the journalism thing. Or like you get people that do design, or like, you know, people like Dave Payne and Majet who branch off and want to do video. And it's like, that's one of the things that made me stay with it. Like it fosters creativity in that sense, because you're like, I want to find a way to like put my stamp on it, or like add something to it, or, you know, Yeah.
I found it so important. Like I'm in this like phase right now where I'm collecting a lot of like old skate gear and skate shirts and stuff. And I'm super jealous of all these guys that have Instagrams where they have like every single fucking thing from the 90s. How do you have this? Why don't you give it to me so I can wear it? Because I'll wear it skating.
I feel like that's sociopathic behavior. I feel like, see, if you're a teenager and you got a brand new pair sent, I hate it when people say pair of wheels. That really pisses me off because they come in sets of 4. Someone's been saying that to me all weekend, and it's clearly embedded itself in my head. How people have these sets of wheels from when they were 14, 15, pristine in box. And it's like, what kind of sick bastard are you that you never rode these?
I don't know. Like, also, like, all of our friends would steal we'd steal each other's shit. So, like, you'd have this, like, great thing. And then, like, I don't know, like, 6 weeks later, you're like, where did all my clothes go? Like, why do I not have all these tees I used to have? Because people would just loot your closet if you had something they liked. At least that's what we did to each other. But yeah, like I'm on this kick of collecting and finding stuff from my era of growing up skating, and I wear it all. Like my brunch section, like almost every one of those tricks is in a shirt from the 90s, which like just makes it like, not that that's an important thing to anyone else, but it was like such a cool feeling for me to like dress the way that I wished I could have dressed when I was younger. Like I wish I had all that shit when I was a kid. I had like some of it, but now it's my adult nerd thing that I just like scour eBay and Depop and like look for really good stuff from the 90s. So
it's like a time machine as well. It like transports you back to that feeling of like being that age, and I don't know, just the thoughts that run through your mind at that time. So it's a cool little like look back.
And it like, that's the stuff that made me want to be a designer. Like that's the stuff that made me want to be involved. Like I started screen printing at 15, 16 years old. And I did that simply so I could make skate tees for my friends. And it's like, that is exactly what I do now, on a much different scale, but like, it's still what I love doing. I still love making graphics. I still love, you know, being involved in this way that like, I feel I have, like almost 30 years of skate history, like embedded in my brain. And I think the output that I make graphically for skating now is really based on my history with it. And so I hope that I'm like pulling things that have, you know, a tinge of nostalgia or a little bit of like a nod to something from that era, because that's the era that made me want to be what I am today as an artist and as a designer. And so, collecting that stuff's really fun. It really just like makes me happy. If I find a like solid piece, I'm just like, oh my God, I fucking can't wait to wear that. I can't wait to skate in it. Like I'm not treating it precious. Like I'll fucking skate.
That's what I was going to ask. What are some of the standout gems that you found? Because there's ones that I see that people post on Instagram, and I'm like, holy shit! Like if I could have had that when I was a kid, I'd have been so happy.
Should I go grab them?
Sure.
Should I go grab a few?
Yeah.
I got them right there. Let me go grab some. I'll grab you like my grail piece. This thing.
Oh, okay.
This is like, probably one of my favorite things that I found. I found this on Depop like a year or so ago, and I bought it for $70. Like,
I mean, that's probably cheaper than what it cost at the time.
that's what I'm saying. And this is like all that I think when I see this is Eric Shrine, VG maybe four,
VG4. He does a backslide on the high ledge in it. Oh, yep.
Big jeans and this jacket.
Yep.
My best friend growing up when I lived in North Carolina had this jacket like when we were kids and would never let me wear it. So this is my thing for sure. Let's see. I got one other one in here. Classic.
Senate Cooley t-shirt. Yeah.
Original, not a reprint. This stuff gets even more like, what the fuck? This Rise Above shirt. Oh shit. This Rise Above shirt. Like,
I'm not sure I've ever even seen that before.
That's what I'm saying. Like crazy, like OG Rise Above shit. Obviously, you know.
Oh, FR classic t-shirt.
OG FR. This is a good one.
Considering how small that brand was, it's really quite miraculous that so much of their stuff has survived the decades.
I can't believe any of this has survived. Tori Tressiter just sent me this.
976.
976. I was telling him we were at Jeff Stockwell's bachelor party, and he was like, him and Drew and I were talking, and I was just like, I just want one 976 piece. I don't care what it is. I just want like one. And he found this on eBay. He was like, oh, I found you one. Like, it's like, cool, I'm going to bid on it. And I got outbid. And I'm like, fuck, I got outbid on this 976 shirt. And I was like, well, whatever, it's fine. I'll let it go. And it shows up in the mail, and Tori's the one that outbid me. So I'm like, he could have told me that he was going to bid on it, and I wouldn't have raised the price for him.
Yeah. I think I only discovered like maybe a couple of years ago that 976 was like basically a Senate offshoot. I always thought it was like a separate thing. Well, yeah. Oh, the Sinner t-shirt. All right.
Yeah, that's a classic. So I've got a bunch more, but it's funny, like just the condition that they're in. Like, I don't even care. They can have holes in them. I'm fucking wearing them. I look like a trashy 13-year-old most of the time.
I mean, like, to be fair, all we're going to do is like fall over and slide about on them on concrete anyway. So what difference does it make? That brings us on.
Interesting shape.
Yeah. That brings us on nicely. So obviously you're wearing one of your them skates t-shirts designs. I'm wearing one.
You're wearing one.
Someone has, I don't know if you saw this, but someone on Instagram had put up a series of stories, like basically coming to their conclusion of where you came up with this design from. And they think it's based on the band, the music, their various album covers, because their album covers are in the exact same sequence of this t-shirt, and it's just one colored circle for each album cover. And I was like,
that's cool.
I was like, that's quite a jump to think that. But then when they actually put them in sequence, I was like, it is in the exact same sequence of colors, and they are all circles.
That's funny. I don't even know that reference. And like, honestly, I try to stay really far away from referencing things that, like, I try not to do the, like, I'll find it in the wild and then like remake it for skating kind of thing. The only time I really kind of dove deep into that was with the brunch tees that I made that were like remix of Senate and Medium and Fiction logos. But like, I love that. I think, again, there's no new ideas. There's just new ways to present them. So I'm presenting an old idea, apparently, that like, I love that people found the connection to something, but I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, when he put up like the first image, I was like, oh, come on, anyone, like circles, of course. I was like, also, those circles are swirls, this is lines. But then when he put the albums in chronological order, I was like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Like,
I was actually kind of going from like this, like Philip Glass used to do this, had this like animation that he did the music for on Sesame Street, like in the 70s. And it was like all these colored circles, and it was almost like a color theory kind of thing. And like, if you look it up, you can look up like Philip Glass Sesame street, and there's these like colored circles that go out from the center, and then they kind of spin around, and they all kind of come together and things. And I was thinking of like how to make our 4 dots kind of like what would happen if they were like going at each other. And so,
Right.
I usually just, when I'm making stuff, I usually just try to start from like an experimental place and play. Like I'm always like playing with graphics. But like, yeah, I try not to reference things too hard. The Buddha tee that I did for this line, that was definitely like a nod to like this style of tee that was happening in the 90s, where it was like a small graphic on the front and like not these giant graphics that happen now. But other than that, like I try to, make little nods to things, but they're hopefully as out of my head as I can make them. But
Right.
if anyone finds connections, that's funny. Send them to me. I would love to see the references.
Well, someone else did. I can't remember how long ago it was, but they had a right go at you on Instagram, and for some reason, I ended up seeing the exchange. Do you remember Carter LeBlanc called you out for your brand with 4 dots thing? He was not happy with that.
No, him and I squashed all that together. He was a really big, like he really stepped up and reached out and apologized for that whole situation. And it came out of nowhere, and it was dumb. I don't know why we even got into it, because we don't know each other personally. But I maintain that was as a blip on the radar, and I think what Carter does is awesome, and I think he's a fantastic skater and filmer, and whatever transpired that upset him in that moment, I don't think exists anymore. So that plate's cleared. And also with the them branding, like, I mean, come on, it's 4 fucking dots.
This is true. Yeah.
It's not like, I'm not claiming genius for it. It's like, it's about the application. It's about what can be, sort of baked into that simple of a mark, and how much weight that mark can carry without being complicated. And when Valo fell apart and that whole thing was kind of coming down, John and I were talking a lot, because I started doing design work for Valo right after Valo 4. So
that's what I was going to ask, because John Starr said that he originally designed the skins for Valo, and then when he could no longer do it, he said, am I right in thinking he suggested you, or you took over for it?
I think he suggested me, and then also Kevin Dowling reached out to John via email and connected me and John on email. Like I met John back in the skate pile days, and so we knew of each other. But like in 2009, like right after Valo 4, like right before 2010, Kevin reached out and just connected me and John on email, because I was living in LA, and it was like I'd been in LA for only like a couple of years, and he was just like, oh, I think you and Mike should work together. And John got back really quick and was like, yeah, man, put together a quick little PDF of some ideas, and like we'll make some stuff for spring. And I don't know if you remember the like Valo stuff that was like kind of looked like the Oakland A's athletics one, and there was like I did, that was the first line I did for Valo. And from then on, I basically did all of the clothing for Valo, and I started doing art direction, and me and Yvonne and Brandon linked up and, made Valo 5. And that was like the first book that I made with those guys. And then from there, it's just like, I've worked with John now, what is it, 2022? I've worked with John for 12 years. Okay. So it's been, we've worked on everything. So yeah, when Valo kind of like was coming to an end, John was just like, I want to come up with, a new company. And he was like, let's just call it Them Goods, because he already had Them Goods as like his distribution. And I was like, no, we need something else, and I was like, give me like a day or two and let me just like mull it over and think about it. And I'm sitting there on the phone with him, I'm just like scribbling in my notebook, and I just like scribbled 4 dots in a row, and then I just wrote over the top of it THEM, and I was like, oh shit. And I literally made the logo in like the next half hour. I was like, okay, this is about right. sent it to him, and he was like, fuck, that's it. Like, that's it. Like, let's do it. And, you know, went from there and we got it, like shortly after. We made sure we got it, not copyrighted, trademarked. So we got it trademarked for our industry, and everything else is history, you know, like we kind of just went from there.
It's so wildly simple that I remember the first time I saw it, like I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm convinced. It just seems a little bit too like nothing, or like generic, or like it just doesn't seem to like indicate anything. But now I'm like, that's the genius of it. It can literally be applied to anything. Like you can put it on, you can so easily put it on like a skate or a t-shirt, or you can manipulate it in so many different ways. Like Marius, when he did his edit, turned it into like fire rings and stuff like that.
That
I'm
was
like,
great.
then I was like, my
Any
God.
beers, eggs, the eggs.
Yeah, or like you can turn it into globes. I was like, there's so many applications for this. Its simplicity is what makes it just, And now with like, I mean, people have already seen like glimpses of the Clark shoe.
Yeah.
Just the 4 dots on it. I'm like, that's so simple. Like if it was like a weird skate logo, it would look totally out of place.
Well, I felt like my background in branding and design, like I felt like there needed to be something in skating that wasn't going to skew one way or the other. It wasn't rocker, it wasn't hip hop, it wasn't, you know, anything. It's like always sort of said this about our brand. It's like I wanted to make a big white box where anything and everything could fit in it. And those 4 dots, you can put them next to any other logo, and all of a sudden you've got like the collaboration doesn't look off, right? It can be some crazy thing like Brain Dead. They can take those 4 dots and they can put them across their little head logo. Perfect, right?
That's what I mean. Like other brands can like so easily, like, I don't know, when you see things like Palace where they've just got like a triangle can be put on any other brand. 4 dots can be put on any other brand.
Exactly. And so it made for a space where I was like, I wanted the brand to always kind of be in this sort of minimal place. We started really, really like minimal design stuff. You know, it was like, I wanted to use halftone dots and I wanted to use blue. And that was it. I was like, my reference for the blue was Yves Klein blue. So like, I'm an artist and my background as an artist, like art history, I was like, Yves Klein created his own blue, you know, in the 1950s or 60s. He trademarked his own color blue. And it's like the deepest royal blue. And I was like, that's the color, right? Like, that's our fucking color. And so that's really all it was. It's like, okay, here's our mark. Here's our colors. We have the whole like road ahead of us to do whatever we want. As long as we use those 2 things and we use them sparingly and we use them like smart, then we can kind of fit whatever into it, right? So it becomes the like empty box that everything fits in, and it makes collaborations and one-offs, and the guys can make their edits and they can like fuck around with what those 4 dots represent for them. On all the packaging, I changed the 4 dots to be something that goes back to the pro skate of that person. Like Danny's, I did sort of like sunshine bursts on the top of his skate because the guys and John were calling him Sunshine. It gave us a lot of room to be playful because it was so simple.
Yeah.
So I think in the long run, it's been a really effective like marketing strategy for us. And like in 5 more years, you know, the brand's going to be like 10 years old. It's like, we won't even have to say them skates. We can literally put those 4 dots up and everyone's going to know it's us.
That's it. Yeah. But it's so simple that it seems inevitable it's going to become iconic. Well, it's already becoming iconic within our sport, but John's vision is clearly not to market to blading. It's to market beyond blading and make it, because there's only so far you can go with that. Like we have a limited participation pool. Like you can,
right. So we started it with that idea too. Like John's, original like thoughts were like, I want this to be, a bad reference maybe, but he was like, I want this to be like as big as like a Supreme, where like it can be in any we can go down any avenue with this. It doesn't just have to be blading. And the fact that we've been able to partner with who we've partnered with so far and do collaborations with, Brain Dead and, what we have upcoming with Clark's, and, that really speaks to that original vision that John had for it, making it like, we had to start with skates. We had to start with, a mold, of an old skate and modify it. And then we made our own. And, what a short amount of time that was. It was like 2 years. We had
there's been also, it's quite funny. I feel like because of the rapid change, people are still clinging on to the idea of how the company started out. So people are like, so wait a minute, it's an entry level budget skate, but now they're charging $500 for it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's no longer that skate. Like, that's the point. Like,
you don't even sell that skate anymore.
Like, that's it. Yeah. Like, it's no longer an open mold skate with a custom sole plate on it. Now it's an entirely new skate. Like, of course the price went up. They developed something else.
Like Sola, designed the 909 shell. We've redesigned that sole plate multiple times to make it better and better. We made our own frame. We have our own wheels. We have our own bearings. We are now we're making our liner better every time. We don't have the luxury in skating of doing R&D for fucking 5 years before releasing a product. So our R&D is releasing micro adjustments to make the product better. And each time we make it better, each time we change something, it becomes more and more ours. I mean, who else makes, their own frame, their own wheel, their own, custom, we changed our buckle. So now we don't have a buckle that the rest of the industry uses. We have our own. And, all that design, all that industrial design work is, thanks to Kyle Sola. He's fucking incredible. So the team that we have working on this product and this brand is amazing. The guys that film, the guys that skate, it's got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely seems to be taking on a life of its own. And just the fact that it does seem so... Someone, basically, I made a video about them recently, and someone left a comment saying, I talked about the importance of having a skate shop. I was like, it's iconic because it's not just a place that sells skates. It's you can literally dress yourself head to toe in that shop in them products. You can buy them homeware, them coffee, you could, most of the things you need to attire yourself, you can, if not all of them, you can get in that shop. That makes it so much more than just a skate brand. And this person was like, yeah, but you could just go into a skate shop and buy a pair of them skates. And I'm like, that's not, you're missing, it's not the same thing. It's beyond a skate brand. You can literally go in there and get stuff for your everyday life that has nothing to do with skating.
You don't have to be a skater to go into the them shop. People in Santa Ana walking down the street go in there, I think, and they're like, oh, this is cool. Maybe they're like, oh, skates are inline skates are back, or whatever they think. But then they're like, oh, this coffee mug's rad, or I like this hat, or oh, I want to get a sticker for my kid, or they're a streetwear kid from LA, and they're like, wow, you guys sell Brain Dead, and then they realize that we did a Brain Dead collaboration with skates, and they're like, oh shit, the lights just go off in people's heads. Because it's not just a skate shop. That's not what we need. We don't need just rollerblades and just wheels and bearings. We need, like it was in the 90s, there was companies that just made pants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's such opportunity right now. I love that we've got more and more people starting to make brands that are sticking around. I think Sean and Colin Kelso, the amount of work that they put into Basement and the way that they promote their brand and the way that they do things, I think they're showing that they're sticking around. Shout out Sean and Colin, what up guys? And it's rad to see that, because we need things that stick around, and you're not going to stick around if you only sell skate stuff. Make a pair of socks. Anyone can wear socks. You don't have to put your foot in a skate after you put them on.
Yeah, it feels like if you just try to cater to the aggressive market, you're limiting yourself to the point where you don't really have an option but to fail, because
there's not enough people to buy it.
Yeah.
Not enough people to buy just the skate like centric product. So if you make product that people just see as like a cool thing, you know, then it's different. Like people wanted, like there's people that wanted the brunch scene that were not even skaters. Like I have like friends and people on Instagram that reached out and they're like, oh, I love the layout. Like I want to see that magazine, and they don't even skate. So it's like we've got to make things that like cross over the boundaries and go outside of the box of skating so that people can look at our culture the same way they look at other things. Like, you know, not everyone who wears Quicksilver is a surfer. You know, not everyone who wears like a skateboard brand is a skateboarder, but maybe they just identify with the look of it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's good. I think it's good to start having things when you come when people come to Blading Cup and you see how many people go into that shop and are just like amazed that there's a shop that has all this stuff in it. You really understand how important it is.
Yeah, and just the fact that it's kind of like on a busy commercial street as opposed to a skate shop that's usually tucked away in the middle of nowhere, and the only people that discover it are people that know it. It's not generally something that gets a lot of footfall.
Yeah. You need the foot traffic. Like, you know, the previous like them shops were in like warehouses, like way out of the way for anyone to be able to walk by them. And so you get like your, you know, your core dudes that come through and know about it and come get their stuff. But this is hugely different. I'm so excited that we have that. It's also, you can walk in and meet John.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that
the people of the day, like you could be like a new Jack, or you could be somebody who's been skating for 20, 30 years. You could come visit California and go into the shop and see John and his kids hanging out in there. And if that's a dream for most of us, to be able to meet some of the people that we grew up idolizing and who influenced our skating. And, you know, I think that's an amazing part of it. He's there. He's not like, this is my shop, but I don't hang out there. Like he's there working. So it's cool. It's one of the best things that's happened to the skate scene in LA, for sure.
Yeah, actually, weirdly, I saw John at the weekend. John was at the London Capital Rollers Jam in London. And on the Saturday, he was skating about, and it's just kind of because I've seen him skate in person periodically for like the last 30 years or something.
Yeah.
And I was just standing there like watching him roll around, and I was like, there's little kids there. There's little kids who are like, you know, between 10 and 15. Or there's lots of people who are just discovered this. London's got this kind of really interesting scene. There's quite a lot of like people in their 20s and 30s who are just discovering blading for the first time. But because the skate park Bay 66 has got such this kind of culture, and a Thursday night skate and stuff like that, it's growing this bigger scene. And it was just really funny that I was like, the amount of people rolling around here doing tricks that John invented that have no idea who he is. They're probably just wondering, who's that older guy just absolutely like cruising around doing whatever he wants. Like at one point I overheard someone say, who's the really short guy with the fast feet? And they were talking about Sizemore. And I was like, if they don't know who Sizemore is, there's no way they know who John is. But they're doing like Mistrals and like they're doing like Mistrals and like Unities and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my God, like they're doing his tricks.
I it's kind of amazing. It's like, there's something nice about that. Like, I think probably for John to like go unnoticed too, because so much of, his life has probably been.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like he's been under a spotlight since 95.
So I feel like that's kind of cool too. You know, it's like the new school doesn't know who everyone is, and they still like skating, which is amazing. It's a testament to how cool skating is. You don't have to have the full history to be part of it.
Yeah,
which I think some people on the internet should like take stock in. It's like, you don't have to like know everything about everything that ever happened to enjoy this. Like you can enjoy it from a completely naive standpoint, you know, like not know who invented the tricks, not know the names of the tricks, but just go out there and start doing it. And that's beautiful too.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for the historians. I'm like partially one. I nerd out on my own version of the history. You know, just like you have your, version of it. And, I think a lot of people keep it alive. But it's great to see people who don't know shit about it just start skating. It's cool.
Yeah, it is also infuriating. I love, like, there's been times where I've been filming like younger guys in the crew that are like, I don't know, late teens or whatever, and then they'll just do something absolutely wild, but they don't know what it's called. So
Yeah.
like, I can't remember what someone kept saying. Oh, like go film this. I'm going to do a topsoul, and I was like, that's a true spin topsoul. I was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
how can you do that so easy? I was like, I can't. Like, I suck at stuff like that. Like all like the new school tech like tricks. Like tweaking your ankles the wrong way. I was so awful at that, and you can't even fucking name it properly. It's infuriating me. Yeah, stuff like, or they'll be like, "What's this?" and then they'll do it, and I'm like, I just don't want to talk to you anymore. You're really getting on my nerves.
More power to them, though. You know, like I remember when all the names of the tricks were different. It's like we were called, like you would just like have to look in Daily Bread to figure out the name of something, and then it would be the wrong name because they'd be, you know, kind of taking the piss and like calling a mistral an overpuss, or like, you know, I think at one point it was like topside meow came out.
Well,
And like
overpuss is a legitimate thing. It's just from a different part of the country.
that's what I'm saying. So like then you have different parts of the country calling things different, like cloudy night and sunny day and all that shit. It's like, you know, at this point, like we don't have any grasp on the lingo or what to say or how to name a trick. We can't even like call the spins in and out correctly. So I think it's all up for grabs. Someone needs to make a dictionary or a trictionary and go for it for real. Like I've talked with Billy O'Neill about this. Like there needs to be a committee, and then there needs to be like, you know, like we lock it down and like lay it out, and you can follow it if you want, but like this is the standard, right? But getting any random two people to agree on how to name something, fucking impossible.
Yeah, that'll backfire.
I think throw all caution to the wind.
Time.
Call it whatever.
Yeah,
you know, call it whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, that no one
just
will
do the tricks.
Ever agree on that for
just make them look good
for the rest of time. So like obviously I know you like have a gallery in the side and like do design work. So do you have like an official position at them, or is it like a casual arrangement? Like how does that work between you and John in terms of the brand?
No, I'm the art director. So like John and I have always kind of operated in like in a funny, it's also just go back to like the, you know, seeing John and not knowing who he is, and people that know who he is. Like for as long as I've known him, it still is like tickles me a bit when like I'm FaceTiming with him at like 8 a.m. You know, it's like getting a FaceTime call from John as soon as I wake up, because he wakes up crazy early. So, you know, that still is something that I hold dear to my heart. I'm like, wow, John Julio's FaceTiming me right now. That's nice. But John and I have always like kind of worked together in a, like, basically if he needs something, I've always just said like, I'm there for you. And he made me an official employee of them last year. So I'm officially the art director for the brand, but I try to cover, like, it's funny because like I cover a lot of stuff that, like, you know, we have to deal with a lot of things that people don't really know about. So it's not all like me making graphics and getting to be like a, you know, artist all the time. There's like serious things that we have to deal with. Like, you know, recently we had to like formulate all this information so that things could be shipped into the UK and into Europe. Like there had to be all this like qualification stuff, and like, you know, we have to deal with like sort of the minutia of the world that we're in. So it's like the skates couldn't go into France if they didn't have like all this labeling and all this stuff on the inside of the liner, and like, you know, EN certification, that's what it was called. So it's like I'll do stuff like that because my background is not just in like the fun art side. Like I know like the logistical side of making products and creating things, and you know, publishing books, and, you know, all the stuff that goes into having to make something. I know A to Z of that. So I try to help John with anything and everything, but I also get to do the fun stuff. So I'm an official employee, but I'm also like always, regardless of whether I'm an official employee in the future or not, at some point, like I'll always work with John. He's one of my favorite people. He's one of my best friends, and I love putting energy and effort towards what we're doing.
Yeah, I'm a huge John Julio fan. Like, yeah, he's been incredibly influential on me teenage years growing up. I can every time I see him though, I can never think of anything to say. I just go complete. I am never short on words. I do not shut the fuck up. But whenever I meet
Yeah.
John, I'm like, hi,
Yeah,
and then my brain just evaporates. I'm like, nope, nothing coming.
yeah. It's funny. Like him and I talk each other's ears off. Like him and Greg and I before the shop was fully formed and everything, and like him and Greg and I would go to corporate dinner together, like like once a month. We'd go out and like get a bunch of beers and eat sushi or like whatever, and just like talk shit. And like you get John going, he'll go for sure. He can be talkative or he can be quiet, but when him and I get together and have drinks and dinner, it's we really go for it. So it takes some getting used to, talking to someone that you are a huge fan of, but he's like family to me now, and I think vice versa. So I love working with the guy. He's awesome.
Have you ever done any work with any other brands in blading before that? Because I only recently found out about the Valo stuff through John Starter, but and obviously you've like helped with, did the branding for them from the beginning, and I've done a lot of the artwork. Like, is there any other blading companies that we wouldn't have known about?
So I don't know if you remember Misery Loves Company was my company
Yes.
with Kevin and Walt. So we started that when I was in art school, and I took a semester off of art school because I couldn't pay my tuition for that semester. So I took a semester off and I worked like all day long in this like super hot screen printing shop. Like literally, like I was fucking like just sweating bullets all day, and I would work all day, and then the guys were paying me like, kibbles and bits. It was like pennies. But they would let me use the press at night to print all the Misery Love stuff. So I was like really experimenting. I would work all day long. And then I'd stay there at night and I'd print Misery Love stuff. So I started there, like made my own company with Kevin and Walt, and we did the best we could back then, which was really fun. I did a lot of stuff for Skate Pile, did ads and stuff for them at a certain point. I did the branding for Epic Frames back in the day. It was like Kevin Racer and
Like the I always thought that was pronounced Epoch. Yeah.
It probably is.
What happened with it? Those never even went for sale, did they?
No, I think it all like got fudged in like finance and stuff. Who knows whatever really happened with that. But like I do like I like working with my friends basically. So when a project comes along that someone wants my help on, I'm all for it as long as like we're pals and I know you. Like I recently did all the title work for Into the Bodega. I did the branding for Bodega Boys that's about to drop in their new video. Because Torres and Delfino, those are my guys. So whenever they need help, I'm down. Who else have I worked with? I don't know. I kind of like stayed, like once I started working with John and Valo, it's kind of like, those are my people, even the guys on Valo, like all those guys are like friends of mine. So, yeah, kind of kept it in that realm. Don't really remember if I've done anything like with anybody else. I don't think so. Not with anybody like big. I never like, I think that like a few people have reached out and I kind of tried. It's not like I wouldn't want to work with someone, but most of the blading work that I've done has been pro bono for the better part of a decade.
Yeah.
So
I can relate to that.
Like, if I'm pulling free time out of my ass for you, I gotta love you.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Mostly the people I end up working with are like really good friends. Like if Yvonne ever calls me and it's like I have a project, like I'm on it. If Delfino or Torres calls me, I'm on it. If B Smith calls me and says I have like this thing I want to do, I'm on it. But it's got to be in the family because I have a regular job too.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, how much? Because am I right in thinking you have a gallery or some kind of design business or something like that?
Yeah. So my wife and I started our own design studio about almost 7 years ago. And we're both fine artists as well. And so we do graphic design, branding, print design, web design, that kind of stuff for clients. But we also, there used to be a press right here. But since we had a baby, we sold the press and we moved into a studio downtown. So we're both printmakers by trade as well. So like fine art printmaking. So our baby's room, which is the next room like over in our apartment, used to be our gallery space when we first got this apartment. We used to live downstairs. So we had 2 apartments on top of each other.
Right.
So yeah, we used to be all graphic design and like client work. And then slowly it's kind of transitioned into being art book publishing and fine art sales. So we like use it to help sell my wife's work and my work and publish books,
Nice.
which we do a lot of. I love designing books. That's my favorite thing. Like the EOS book, the Valo 5 book, Hermanos, the Brunch zine, all that stuff. Like that's like my favorite stuff that I get to do.
So you designed all of those?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay.
Designed Valo 5. I also brought like my printer who I've worked with for the last like decade to the skate community. So the printer we use is like the most award-winning print shop in America. And he's a close friend of mine, and I've brought like 1,000 projects his way. So whenever we have a skate project that we can afford to do with him, because it's expensive, but he's like the best offset press in America. So we did Valo 5 with him, which was like the sort of crazy, like Yvonne paid for that out of pocket, I think, which was nuts. And he paid for Hermanos out of pocket. But like Yvonne's like me, like he's gonna go full pull like on a project. It's like it's got to be the shit. It's got to be the way he wants it to be, or it's not happening.
Yeah,
so
he does.
That's
seem,
who I end up working with.
He always seems more concerned about the integrity of the project rather than what it can I don't know.
Well, look,
the profit he can get from it. He's always more.
No
like,
one's making profit off this.
Shit. You know what I mean. He's like, how people like cut corner because they're like, well, we'll try and like get some money back, or we'll try and make some money. He's like, no, I'm going to take the most expensive route possible.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he's like, like, look, we're at a place now where Yvonne, Brandon, Delfino, Stockwell, me, like anybody who works on these types of projects, or when we get together and work on them, like we all have like our professional career that we do on the not on the side as like our main thing. So putting something into skating, it's like we're not trying to make money from it. We're trying to make it awesome.
Yeah.
Like trying to make something that people hold on to and are like, fuck, I got this when I was in, I don't know, like high school or like college or whatever. Like I want people to remember the print media that we've made for the last 10 years as like some of the best stuff that's ever come out in skating. Like I feel like the EOS book and the Valo 5 book and Hermanos and even the Brunch scene that we just did, like all that stuff is like, labors of love. They're not like, no one made $1. I didn't ask for a single dollar from the Brunch scene. I just gave them to the squad, I made them for the homies because they deserve it. Like I think that's like we deserve something better than like a bullshit Kinko's FedEx printed zine. Like we deserve something that's like gonna last.
Yeah,
I think our culture will continue to go forward if we make things like that. People put all this effort into the videos. It's like, why are we not putting that same effort into print? Like
true.
Or even in the websites that we make or whatever. It's like Instagram is such a like weak ass flaky place for content. It's like it's the garbage dumpster of content. It's like the best thing sitting next to like a picture of someone's auntie's sandwich. So it's like like who gives a shit that's on Instagram? Like nobody cares at all. Like it's gone in 10 minutes or 10 seconds. But if you make something that's lasting, like a great video or a great magazine or a great line of clothing or whatever it might be, that's stuff that you can hold on to, you know. That makes a nerdy kid like me go back and find it 30 years later. So I feel like that's what I want to do for skating, and like that's what I have to offer. And you know, I hope that there's more kids that come into skating that have an eye for design. It seems like everyone wants to make videos, which is great, but we need people that make other things in videos.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I do think there's an instant gratification with making a video, because you can make it and like people like show it to people, or have a premiere and people can, you know, react to it. Whereas I've done the whole print media thing. I've done like a self-published like 10 copies of a magazine, and you're like, did anyone like this? Did because
maybe not, but like it doesn't matter.
What form of feedback are you getting? You're like, I don't know. Like I spent a lot of money on them. I just don't. Yeah.
The feedback is like something that like doesn't. I think we have to get away from caring about the feedback. It's like, who's it for? If it's for your squad, if it's like for your like guys that like you skate with, if it's for them, then I'm sure they love it. If it's for the general public, and you don't hear this like, oh, it's the best thing ever, and like, you know, there's not a bunch of social media reposts of like, who cares? You know what I mean? Who cares? Like the guys that like I really see kind of taking the reins, like I think Greg Preston is probably one of the most talented people that we have in skating. I think he's like the voice of like skating going forward. Like shout out Greg, you're the fucking best. His aesthetic, his way of doing things, even his pace, like the way he like paces what he puts out. Like I think he treats what he makes like an artist, and I have a ton of respect for that. Torres, same thing. Like I think he treats what he does for skating like an art, and that's how I feel about what I do for it. So anybody that I see doing that, I'm like, big ups to those people, you know, like if you're just trying to churn and burn and make some fucking dough, like get the fuck out. Like, you know,
it's also the wrong industry to try and
churn and burn. Also, you're aiming at the wrong people, like, you know, like. So I really do feel like there's some people coming up that really have like such a strong artistic voice that is starting to really come into focus for skating, and Greg is one of those people that I really put what he does on a pedestal. I think he's fantastic, and I think he's experimental, which I think is really wonderful.
Yeah, that is one thing. He definitely takes a lot of risks with the videos he makes. Like he doesn't find a formula that works and then goes, all right, I'm just going to stick with that. Like the next one can be completely different, which I do really like, because it doesn't become formulaic. It offers that element of what are we going to get this time?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like you know, like labors of love are amazing. Like what he's doing with Too Easy, and like what he's been doing with Too Easy is like, it's incredible to keep that going, and to not maybe be making any money from it, but like for it to be his creative output. That's the way I looked at like what I was doing with brunch. And like Official Sunday Brunch was less about making videos or like teas or like having the skate collaboration that we had. It was more about like community building, like getting all these guys that love each other and live close enough to meet up once a week together. And out of that sprang all this creativity. So it's like, you know, another bad cliche, but it's like, if you build it, they will come. So like we built this thing that like people all of a sudden were like, I want to fucking go to that, you know, like I want to be at brunch. I want to drink beers in the park and like dick around, and like who doesn't, you know?
Yeah. So,
and we've been able to have like, we've been doing it since 2018. It's pretty long.
Yeah. I was trying to, is it 3 videos you guys have made? Like three
full length, and we have 60 episodes.
Yeah. Plus you've also given us a new Randy Spicer section, which, you know, no one's complaining about that.
No, not at all.
And Chris
John Bellino, dude. John
Bellino
really came back and like got his feet underneath him coming to brunch, and he was just so stoked to come and hang. And like, man, making sections of him, come on, that was like a blast. You know, making a section for Randy, I was like, we told Randy the first time he showed up, we were like, if you show up, you'll make a section by the end of the, like, we call it the season, you know, we like to be cheeky with it. But we're like, by the end of the season, you're gonna have a section, you won't even know you made it. And like, that's the way we like it to feel. We don't like people to be like, oh, I'm going to brunch because I'm like, gonna make this section and I gotta think about the tricks I'm doing. It's like, we're all half drunk when we're skating. Not that everyone should be doing that, just disclaimer, you know?
Yeah, I can't do that. If I have like 2 beers and try and drink, I'll miss everything.
Yeah, we've maybe made it too much of an art at this point, but you know, we're just having fun. Like, we're literally just having fun. The kind of like unwritten rule of brunch is you can have your beer when you land your trick. You know, so if you're going after something and you want to get it and you're, you know, bothering me or Casey or someone to film it, then if you land it, then you can go have a beer. Right. And usually by like the middle of the day, middle of the afternoon, people are like 2 or 3 beers in, whatever, and there's like a second wind and everyone just starts skating even better. And you're like, how the fuck is this happening? You know, like everyone's got like 3 or 4 beers in them and they're skating better than they were this morning when they were dead sober. But
yeah,
we're all allowed to do that because we're like late 30s, early 40s. So kids, drink your water.
Another favorite thing about Sunday Brunch is the only place now where I get to see Cruz Sapstein footage, which I'll take what I can get. I'll take what I can get.
Me and Cruz are the ones that like came up with the idea.
Right.
So, you know, like he was it was like the then team was newly formed and Cruz was on the then team, the first iteration of the then team.
Yeah.
And he was working at this agency over by the skate park that I like. And I was, you know, doing my thing, freelancing and running my agency at the house. And I was just like, dude, let's meet up for lunch. And we filmed the first episode on like my GoPro. And I was like, we called it lunch breaks. And then Jeff and Brandon and Marcus heard that we did that. And we were like, oh, let's like maybe meet up on a Sunday and like all skate together. And then we called it Sunday Brunch. And we were like, do you want to do this every Sunday? And everyone was like, yeah, let's do it. So
I'm confused about the logistics of it though. So you're gonna have to talk me through this, hopefully without incriminating yourself. Whenever I watch American movies, the thing that always fucks me off about them is they're always in a bar or a restaurant, right? And they're getting totally trashed.
Yeah.
And then there's a driving home scene.
Yeah.
How the fuck are they driving home from the bar? I've just watched you had a bottle of red wine. How, like, you're not road legal. And it happens in every Netflix thing, every Hollywood thing, everything based in LA. They're at a bar having cocktails, then drive. I like bitch about this relentlessly to my partner. I'm like, how do they not have drink driving laws? Like, so how are you guys pulling it off? Because it seems like you're all drinking. There's definitely, you guys are smoking weed. How are you getting home?
Well, there's a cool down period, right? So, you know, let's say you metabolize a drink an hour, right? But if you metabolize a drink an hour normally, and then you add sweating profusely and skating for like 4 hours into the middle of that, like by the time we're ready to go home and we're like sitting on the blankets together, like we're half cooked, you know, we're half cooked, but like, it's not like no one's driving home like plastic for sure. And a lot of us carpool too. So guys like Cruz doesn't drink a ton, you know, he'll drive the Long Beach guys up. If it's an LA session, we're going to LA Park. You know, if I'm the designated driver coming from LA down to Long Beach or we're going somewhere, we definitely take care to make sure that we're not drunk driving. But I can't say that we're not a little smiley at the end of the day. You know, maybe more sun drunk than we are drink drunk.
What's the legal limit in California?
No idea. But I think maybe not knowing is better. Let's say if let's say if we got pulled over, we're going like, how many drinks have you had, sir? And I'd say I've had 2 in the course of a full day, you know?
Wow. Okay. In the UK, you're allowed 1 unit in your system, 1. And if you've got more than 1, you're going to fucking jail.
Yeah, no, well, trust me, I've spent my fair amount of time in jail. So no one's aiming to go to jail. We're all just trying to have fun. So we like to sweat it out. We're sweating it out.
Okay.
Don't worry.
I'll try that.
And we're drinking tons of water. we're hydrating.
All right.
It's one drink, one water.
I mean, I've seen the footage, right? I've seen the footage. You say blanket cool down time. Blanket cool down time is when you guys are busting out the micheladas and like.
Yeah, there's tomato juice in that. It's fairly alcohol. Look, we're taking a lot of liberty. There's no disclaimers at the beginning of our videos, but I'll just put this one out there. Do as we say, not as we do.
Right.
We're trained professionals, not at skating and drinking. So
can see the local newspaper headline now: entire squad of weird inline skaters arrested leaving community skate park.
Here's the funny thing: is like it used to be we would go skate, and this is like pre-COVID, right? We'd go skate and we would skate the skate park, and then we'd go to a Mexican restaurant after it, and we'd have food, and we'd have a couple beers, or we'd do a michelada or whatever, and that's that, and we're done. When COVID hit, we couldn't gather at restaurants anymore in LA. So like all the restaurants were closed down. So we were just like, well, fuck it. We're just going to bring a cooler full of beers to the park. And now that's proliferated into like nearly 3 years of us just public drinking, which is completely illegal. But we don't really give a shit anymore. We're just like, we're showing up with like 20 people and coolers full of beer and like sandwiches and like whatever, like chips, and we kind of make it a day in the park. LA is pretty light. During COVID, they actually allowed you to open carry, so that kind of changed. Like you can be in a public park in LA and have a beer, so it's kind of like looser now. I don't know how it is anywhere else, but for us, COVID kind of loosened up the regulations, and we really took advantage of it.
Right.
And I mean, really took advantage of it.
I mean,
we're not bringing kegs to the skate park or anything, but like we brought a decent amount of beer.
Yeah.
We got sponsored by a beer company for like one of the first season. One of our friends, one of Sayer Danforth's friends, is the flavor scientist at a brewery here in LA called Golden Road. And there's this stuff called Mango Cart that we were mixing with our micheladas. And I went and met up with her and went to the brewery, and she gave us like 2 pallets of beer. So we had free beer for like 10 sessions from Golden Road. Shout out Golden Road.
Yeah, that is.
They hooked us up. We've been trying to get like Michelob Ultra to sponsor us, but they won't. They don't respond to any of my DMs.
That would be the.
They're too big for us.
Yeah, having a beer sponsor, that'd be.
Well, we want in the future, hopefully, beer sponsor, perfect. A frisbee sponsor would be also good. And then maybe like a cooler chair sponsor would be awesome too.
Right.
I'm open. Anybody out there works for a chair company, lounge chair, like foldable chair, hit us up. We will just
branch out from this role.
We'll plug your product.
I don't see this idea taking off. Like in Scotland, like 1 unit isn't even a beer. It's like less than a bottle of beer. So if you get caught with less than a bottle of beer in your system, you're losing your license and going to jail. So yeah,
come to California. We're hippie utopia.
Yeah, but see, in Scotland, you don't have to drive anywhere. It's great. Like only if you want to go from like town to town or city to city. If you're in the city, you can walk everywhere.
I will say this to be fair to myself, to also like kind of take a little bit of the heat off of the drinking and driving thing. The few brunches that I've been to that I got really plastered at, I Ubered. So I was like, someone's taking me to this because I'm getting drunk today. Whether it was like my birthday session or whatever it was, like I'm like, someone's driving me or I'm Ubering because I'm going in today.
So has anyone came from right? Has anyone like any friends of friends come from out of town and been like, holy shit, like guys, I don't know how you're doing this. Like I can't drink and skate. Like I'm gonna like they just can't land in, or they're just like dying on their ass. Like I can't keep up with this. This is nonsense.
Everyone kind of like, it's crazy. It's like when you're in the heat of it, it's the same thing as like I bartended during art school. So like when you're bartending, when you're behind the bar, like you can drink all night long and you never feel drunk because you're doing something.
Yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like that thing where like if you have one White Claw or like a seltzer or like something and you're like filming and you're sweating in the sun, you don't feel it. You might feel it if you were just sitting there all day drinking in the shade. But I think most people that we're hanging with are pretty pro at skating and at drinking. So everyone's kind of like, if you're coming to brunch, you're either one, a sober skater and you don't even like fuck with that part of it, or you're like a degenerate like the rest of us and you can handle your booze.
This is true, but yeah. See, it's like, oh, this is just our crew. It's just a chilled out Sunday skate. But unfortunately, your crew happens to consist of some elite level rollerbladers who've got a long history in the sport.
Yeah. I think it's more intimidating to come and skate with the guys who are there for out of towners or people who show up than it is to like have a drink. I think the drink actually helps calm you down because you've got Jeff to your left and Billy to your right, and Cruz and like all these guys are like so amazing. Fucking Randy showing up at sessions. It's like, we made Randy drink. We made him do it to prove he wasn't a narc.
I always thought of like Randy is quite clean living.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he gets down.
Okay.
He'll crush a Modelo here and there,
I mean, Stockwell, on the other hand, just seems like a total reprobate. I've only met him like twice, very, very briefly, but he's always been drunk.
Yeah, Jeff is a complete degenerate for sure. You hear this, Jeff? If you hear this, I'm saying this straight to your face. Don't worry, he knows that's what I think.
Yeah,
I'm the same though, so it's fair game. We're all kind of in that class with each other. Like we can definitely egg each other on to go further than we need to sometimes.
That's what I like to hear. Speaking of degenerate behavior, at what point did you move to LA? Because there's a story I want to ask you about.
Oh yeah, sure. I think I moved here in 2007. Pretty sure, 2007.
Right, so this can't have been that long after that. Did you used to hang about with Lonnie Gallegos?
Yes. Shout out Lonnie. Love you, Lonnie.
Who seems to have disappeared into thin air, but that's assuming another story. He used to have like a blogspot thing. I don't know if you remember this, like the Fade Nation blogspot. And
I worked on Fade Nation graphics with Lonnie. I did Fade Nation Green cover. I did the Fade Nation 2 cover. All the graphics for Green. But yeah, Lonnie's my guy.
You're holding out on me. So if
I forget about that shit, though. I don't remember.
He put up a photo of was it Anti-Hero skateboards? They're I'm assuming it's their headquarters.
No, it was a wall in La Brea that's now like a Jewish synagogue. They tore it down, but it was a wall on La Brea here, which is in my neighborhood in Hollywood. And there would be an Anti-Hero or a Girl Skateboards ad there like every 6 months. And so I wrote graffiti for like 10 plus years living in Atlanta, also while skating. And Kevin Dallin was here. And the first time I hit it was like a girl skateboard. It was like the girl bathroom logo. And I just put 4 wheels underneath her feet. I put rollerblades on her. And Kevin was here for one of his first visits to LA since I moved here. And so I was like, let's go fucking get that built. Like, let's go get that wall and be hilarious. Like, thought it was such a funny thing. And then it ended up being on like Crail Tap. And like some of the guys from Girl Skateboards like actually thought it was hilarious. So that was the first one.
That's
the one that you're alluding to.
That's what's confused me, because I saw the Anti-Hero one, right? But then when I looked, I found the image from, I didn't realize it was on your Instagram. That would have been the logical thing to look first. I ended up trolling through Lonnie's fucking blogspot, which took me back like 15 years.
Yeah.
But then I was like, this isn't the image I remember. The image I remember is the one of the Girl Skateboards one, but the image he has is the one of the Anti-Hero one, because I'm sure there was video footage of you doing it as well.
The video footage that Lonnie filmed and Kevin shot photographs was when we wheat pasted. So we went and measured it was when Hello Kitty and Girl Skateboards had a collaboration.
That's what I remember. Yeah.
So same wall. But like the Hello Kitty thing had just gotten put up, and I was like, oh man, we gotta get that one too. And Kevin happened to be in town again. I was like, let's fucking do it again. And so we went and I measured the thickness of the line width of the illustration of Hello Kitty. And my buddy, my best friend Nat, who I started skating with, who got me into skating in North Carolina, was also here. And he's done some like street art stuff as well. We went and measured the width of like the line art on Hello Kitty, and then I designed an Illustrator rollerblades that looked exactly like the Hello Kitty illustrations. And we went back in the middle of the day and we pasted rollerblades on her. So while we were doing it, I mean, this is like middle of the day, full traffic in LA. Like we're just like sitting there wheat pasting this onto the billboard. And this guy, Lonnie's filming it from across the street. Kevin Downing's taking photos, and me and my buddy Nat are like quickly wheat pasting them onto the character. And this guy walks by, and like right after we get finished with like the last like like swipe of the brush, putting on the skates, this guy walks by and he's like, "Oh man, billboard looks killer, guys!" Like he thought we had just finished doing the actual thing. We're like, "Thanks, dude." So yeah, I wish that billboard was still there. I loved fucking with those guys. I think they deserve to be fucked with. It was all in good fun. There's no hate, but come on. It's like it was too good of an idea to not do. And the fact that we got to do it twice just like really tickled me. So
yeah,
I love that Lonnie filmed it the second time.
Where is that video available anywhere? I don't know where I saw it.
I think I have. I'll send it to you. I've got the link to it. It's on Lonnie's Vimeo, maybe.
That might be it.
I think it was like his Vimeo was like Lonnie Francisco.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
So if you go back to that, you can find it. But I have all the photos that Kevin took, because we were doing like push-ups in front of it and like jumping in front of it when we finished it.
I need the Hello Kitty images, because all I could find was the anti-hero one. And I remember at the time being like, "This isn't right. This isn't what I remember."
Anti-hero one was like, what I meant it to look like bad. I was like, let's just go really shitty rollerblades, like white paint, like right underneath it. But the Hello Kitty one was a little more of a planned thing.
Oh, man, I would love to know what they thought of that when they saw, either what they saw of it, or when I don't know, they're just sitting in the office thing, like talking about it, being like, were they pissed at how much money they'd spent on it and that he'd done it, or the fact that it was done really well, and they're like, well, fair play, that's like, hats off, guys.
I can imagine it's like they can't be that mad, because like it could have just been some shitty tag over the top of it, which would have ruined the mural anyways. Like someone definitely tried to come by and rip off the skates, and they couldn't, because it was so well wheat pasted that like literally all it did was tear a little bit of it out. So it persisted for quite a while, which was really fun.
Plus the height of it just made it like, it made it almost too, because you're like, you don't even have to climb up anything. Like you can literally just stand there and do it.
Yeah. And like, I never wanted to be like, that was me that did that. But like, if you knew, you knew.
Yeah.
Like it was fun. I got to live in anonymity for a pretty long time. I think maybe Arlo reached out to someone at one point and was like, "Who did this?" And then I raised my hand. I was like, "That was me."
I mean,
once Arlo asked, I was like, "Yeah, it was me."
Yeah, you're going to tell Arlo. I'm sure I remember asking Lonnie at the time, because I was like back and forth interviewing him for Fade Nation videos, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm not telling you." And then he put up the vid. Yeah, it must have been on Vimeo, and I was like, "Well, now I fucking know. Like, I can see who it is." Like,
yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah. It's weird, like little things that just stay with you and you remember and stuff. That is pretty random, but
yeah. That was a fun one. I'm glad that Kevin was there for both times, because he took really great photos of both of them. It's like the photo of the anti-hero one is like one of my favorite photos of all time. Of like, I've done tons of art and design work, and like that shitty rollerblades on the girl logo is like one of my favorite things like ever. Love it.
But it's more just like that's the sentimental value, like the memory of just, I don't know, just going out on a night mission or whatever and just having a laugh with your friend.
Oh
yeah. No. Has there been any other instances like that, of like you like messing about in the city in your graffitiing days, or have you got into trouble for it since you've been out in LA?
No, I kind of stopped doing it in LA. Like graffiti in LA is like really gang related, and when I moved out here, I was also trying to kind of like, writing is like partially like a fun artistic thing, and the other half of it's like really like you just being a shithead and ruining people's property, and like kind of like it's great, but it's also like I was kind of growing out of that scene a bit because I'd gotten in a lot of trouble in Atlanta. And so when we moved out to LA, I tried to focus more on my career and I kind of stopped writing graffiti, except for these few instances where I kind of did like the girl wall thing. And if someone from my crew from Atlanta would come visit like those first few years, and we'd go to like the Venice wall and paint. But I haven't painted in a while. It's kind of like it's okay. I've kind of hung my hat up on that. It's like it helped formulate some fun practices for me and some aesthetics, but I don't really need to be damaging people's buildings anymore or trains.
Yeah.
I don't. It's a felony too. It's like I don't want to be a felon. I'm good.
This is true. So you've put graffiti into one side and then just brought on board drink driving.
I mean, no, but yeah. I do not condone either. Yeah. Let's call it public drinking. I try to stay away from
Let's call it public drinking. Social
drinking.
Yeah. So what, like, obviously you're going to have your hands full, something rotten with running your own thing, working with them, obviously with a newborn child. Like, have you got any other projects for the year that are keeping you busy that you're involved in right now or you've got coming up?
Skate stuff, just like my always my them stuff. We've got really exciting stuff coming out. So like a lot of the stuff that I've worked on doesn't come out for a while. So we've got super exciting stuff coming out with them. Obviously the Clarks thing is one of the biggest ones, and that was an incredible opportunity to be a part of that project. But I just got a new job. I'm working with John Starr again. Him and I have worked together before. We worked at Oculus together years back. We worked at skateparks together. So him and I are working for this company called Whatnot now. And I've gotten the job as art director and creative director there. So I work on the marketing side and Star works on the product side. So it's great to be able to work with him again. But yeah, I'm just gonna raise my kid and hang out and, probably get back to skating. I haven't skated in like 2 months. I've been skating on the 80s around the neighborhood with my dog and getting my exercise, but I haven't done a grind in almost 2 months. So I'm excited to skate again.
I forgot to ask, your son's called Cyan, is that right?
Yeah, Cyan.
Which is a blue, and you seem to have, there seems to be a theme of blue running through your life.
Yeah, so we named him Psy. We wanted to name him Psy. We came up with the name years ago. My favorite American painter is a painter by the name of Cy Twombly. So we wanted to name him Psy, but we wanted to stick something behind it. And my wife is basically color theorist and super in. She published a book about color therapy and made a whole art show about color therapy last year. And we just really loved this idea of putting something behind Psy. So we were like, oh, cyan's an amazing thing because I have green eyes, she has blue eyes. Cyan is the midpoint between blue and green. Kind of felt cool to name him a color too. I was like, and we're both print designers and printmakers. So cyan, magenta, yellow, black is the 4 colors that make up all printed material. We stuck a lot of, embedded a lot of things behind that name, so it's fun.
Yeah, when he grows up and asks you the meaning behind it, don't tell him something cooler than that. Otherwise,
I'm gonna be like, the print ink cartridge was out on my printer the day that we were naming you, and I was like, oh, cyan's out. Yeah, we'll name him that. We almost went with magenta, but we didn't.
But then all his friends would call him Madge. What teenage boy wants to be called Madge?
Ooh, not a good one. Not a good one.
No,
wouldn't do that.
He would need to learn how to fight real quick.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but hopefully he likes the name. We'll try not to dress him in all blue all the time, just so he doesn't hate it. But also, maybe we'll do that. Who knows? We'll find. Only time will tell.
Exactly.
10 days old today, so
Yeah.
So far, so good.
Yeah, we thought we were being giving our daughter a really cool name that she would, be proud of when she got older, and then because it's not a traditional girl's name.
Yeah.
And now all the other little girls in school are called like Sarah and Elsie and did it. And she's like, why don't I have a nice name? Why have I got like the weird name? And I'm like,
Oh,
your name's cool. What's your problem? And I feel
yeah,
like
I mean, like,
I
I
feel
have
like
the
when she
most
gets older, she'll
basic name
appreciate it. But
ever.
right now, she's like, nah, this sucks. Like, I want to be
Yeah, you gotta
called,
wait till you're older.
yeah, I want to be called Katie or whatever, like everyone else. And I'm like, that everyone's got, I've got the most generic name on earth.
Same.
I don't want to be
Yeah, me
called
and you.
David.
Like Mike, David. Like, come on. Like, literally, I was just like, I'm giving my kid a cool name, just because like I have the most popular name, like it's maybe the second most popular name in the world. So yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. Like I gave him Michael's his middle name because my dad did that too. My dad gave me his first name and my middle name, and so on and so on through my family. So like he's got Michael to fall back on if he really needs it, but
Oh, that could be his rebellion when he's older. He's like, you know what?
oh,
Fuck you, Dad. I'm going to go conservative. I'm going to go. I'm
yeah. And I'd
like,
be like, well, that's my name, dude. So you're not really rebelling. There's no way out, bro.
no. Then you just start calling him Junior just to really piss him off when he's like,
That's my dog's name.
oh, ooh,
My dog's name is Junior, so it's already taken. He's fucked.
yeah, Junior,
Yeah.
Junior, the
Yeah,
other
that's what
Junior,
someone,
Junior
so,
number,
someone said Junior too.
Junior 2, yeah. But then that kind of sounds like a small shit. You can't do that. That's not good.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. You tell me how your daughter deals with it in like 10 years. I'll tell you how my son deals with it.
I mean, at this rate, I'm still going to be involved in rollerblading and even more jaded and less hair.
You know what? Like you're gonna soften. This is what's gonna happen. Like I got to 40. Like my one guy. Do you know the Muppets? The show The Muppets.
Yeah.
Okay. So like in the Muppets, there's the two old men that sit in the balcony seat in the theater and they just talk shit.
Yep.
That's me and Drew background. We meet
Okay.
up like throughout this whole brunch thing. Like me and Drew have become like really like a lot closer, and Drew and I will meet up at the bar and sit down together and just talk shit about rollerblading like nonstop for like 2 hours, and then like part ways. But we keep it in that place. We don't like let it go outside of that. He's my favorite person to talk shit with because he's like, to me, Drew is like such a legend, and like he's got a couple of years on me, and he worked at Daily Bread, and he's like made some of the best things ever in skating, and he's also just like one of the most creative, hilarious people I know. So getting to talk shit about skating with him is like, it's bar none. Like no one has better shit to say than Drew about skating. But I try to leave it there, like I try to be really happy about the way skating is going, and I love what the kids are doing. I love all the stuff that's coming out. Even if I don't love it, I try to, give it its time in the sun. I'm not a big fan of people, skating on tennis courts and like skate dancing on tennis courts and wizard frames, but
Oh,
I also see the value.
I was like, where are you going with this? Right. Okay. Got you now. Right.
Yeah. Like that's not like my thing, but like I totally understand that it's like a smooth surface, but I just kind of see it as this like weird place that like, I don't know, it's weird to see like tennis courts be like the training ground for this type of skating. But also it's like, it's not my thing. I don't have to like it. Like, I don't have to love it. I like it, but I also don't get it as much. So,
I do feel like it's one of those divisive things that you either, you see and appreciate and you're like, wow, that's really intricate. Or
I appreciate it.
Nah.
Sure.
Yeah. You're like, nah, not for me.
I appreciate it. I'm not going to strap them up and do that. I'm leaning full into the 90s California inline skater, like wearing really short shorts and no shirt and fitness skating down the street. That's what I'm doing. So everyone can make fun of me for that because I'm really leaning hard into that, dude. I got my dog, strapped my dog up. Like I'm out there, dude. I got headphones on. It's the best. It's been the best exercise. You
and Randy Spicer could meet up at a boardwalk and just race each other along it.
I'm trying to start a racing thing. I told Greg Preston last time I was down at the shop. I was like, we need to get an actual race going where like everyone starts at a line and then just like a full foot race on the 1080s.
Yeah, but not just with skates. You would need the dogs. Would rollerblading on its own is really boring. No one wants to watch
Dude,
people just race on rollerblades. You need to be pulled by dogs. It needs to be like
yeah,
sled dogging, but on a
yeah,
California beachfront.
yeah. I love it. I
Yeah,
think Randy's dog has probably got the most energy. He's the youngest.
he does
Greg's
also
dog.
have. He's the muscliest as well because it isn't like it's like pit bull
Pitbull's
breed,
not
isn't it?
fair. I got a fucking golden retriever, so like he's fast, but like he's gonna run out of energy.
Yeah,
I feel like Greg's dog's probably fast out of the gate too, but we've got like we don't have like drag racing dogs. Like Randy's got the drag racer,
yep. He's got the American muscle. Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like Teddy's gonna win
yeah.
for sure. But I'm in. If anyone wants to start a sled dogging on Rec Skate League, I'm in.
I feel like I've came up with a really
Send your
good
video
idea.
content into sled dogs at sleddogs.com.
That's it. It's so niche. It just might work.
It might.
It might take
Seriously.
off.
Be careful out there though, because if your dog gets going, Jeff's dogs can fucking haul ass.
I've heard Jeff's dog's been responsible for a couple of spills on his behalf.
Jeff skates fast, so you already know how fast he skates, and then like add his dog just going full bore. Yeah, they're a scary pair. They might actually take it. I might be right. Have you seen like Jeff will do tricks while being towed by his dog? There's some outtakes in like at the end of like Official, I think, where Jeff like does top acid while his dog's pulling him.
I probably have seen that and I've just forgot it. Okay.
He's talented like that though.
Yeah, it's infuriating. I've got one more question, then I'll let you go.
Yeah, of course.
What's your favorite Blader Gang film?
Damn. I mean, it's probably going to be Bill's, the one that they made of Billy, or maybe one of Montre's. But shit, they made a lot. Erod's made a lot.
I'll give you bonus points if you can actually name one.
Is it Duo?
All right, okay, all right. You got it. Damn, I was really hoping I'd get you. Yes, it was called Duo.
Shout out to Erod. Erod's the man. The Blader Gang stuff is like such an interesting like perspective on skating too, because it's almost like the rap video, like music video kind of look, which is not to throw anyone under any buses or like this is totally without like taking a stab at anyone, but who's the guy who made the state of the art?
Jonas Hansen.
Yeah, it's not unlike that to me. So like if you're not putting skate sounds in your video and it's very cinematic and it's got like a soundtrack like that and it looks like it's like so professionally filmed, that those two looks are very similar. So like the Blader Gang look and like Jonas Hansen's look are like in my mind really similar, and I think that is like something that people really love. Like they love that really like highly cinematic look. It's for a certain crowd, you know. Like I think we need to have things that look like that, and then we also need to have things that look like, I don't know, like the Haitian bag stuff looked, or like, you know, now like the stuff that like Greg does, or like Super 8, you know, or like really lo-fi, like, you know. The thing that I will say is like, skate sounds are important.
Skate sounds are important.
I don't care if you're filming with like a red cam or like a whatever, but like not having skate sounds in a skate edit was the only part where I can like say like that's my critique. But the Blader Gang stuff's dope, dude. They fucking rip. Shout out Montre, shout out fucking all those guys. They fucking rule it.
That was a really diplomatic response. There's a future waiting for you in politics. I'll tell you that.
I wish I was down with Blader Gang. Like, you know, like come on, those guys. All those guys are super talented, and I think we have to have. I'll say this about. Sorry, yard work people. I'll say this about like, you know, Blader Gang or like anything like all the different styles that we have of filming and showing skating. It's like we have those so that people can connect, and the guys and girls that connect out there with like something like a Blader Gang video versus something like I don't know, like, you know, something like the Them Guys might make, or like even like the, you know, the new Mesmer video. Like those styles are so different, and it gives you a place where you see yourself, especially as a kid. And if you in yourself can connect with that, then it's a good thing. It doesn't have to be everyone's cup of tea, soundtrack or the way it's filmed or whatever. It doesn't have to be your cup of tea, but we need to have diversity and we need to have variety, so that our culture is open to everyone. So I'm fucking down with it all.
It's definitely
and
important.
We need people who make cinema quality shit like that. So Erod, like, shout out to him for making stuff like that. Shout out to Jonas for making stuff like, I watched State of the Art and I was like, holy shit, this looks like it should be in a theater. But like,
I mean, the guy does make car adverts for a living, so he knows how to make it look as high. I don't know what you would call that. High. Oh my god. What is that term?
Highbrow.
Nope. Yeah. No. Production quality. Yeah, I don't know. Like high production quality. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that we have everything in between. I'll give you my hot take. That is not about Blader Gang or anything like that. Is I am just like I'm like starting to unfollow so much rollerblading content on Instagram because it's just too much. Save it, make a fucking project, make a magazine, save your photos, save your clips, just make something worthwhile. The skate clips on the internet every goddamn day is enough. Sorry. You can edit this out of the interview if you want to, or you can leave it.
I get it. Like, see, like when people do that thing where they try and drip feed you a clip every day, or you can then tell that they've done like 5 tricks at a spot that day, but instead of just releasing it all, they're going to give you like a nugget every day, or regurgitate them and bring them out again every other month. You're like, this is, I don't need to see this again. Stop it.
It's painful. It's painful to have a fucking clip every day to like a song, and the reels and the way that people are just like proliferating their material. It's just like, it's my opinion. So like opinions are like assholes. Everyone's got one. I wish people just kind of like stocked up on their stuff and like waited and then released something of value that like really showed that they were spending their time and caring for their skating and their, you know, I love like, you know, you're out and having a good time with the boys and you want to like put like one of your clips out. Sure. But doing it every single day to like gain a following and like putting a fucking Jordan Peterson quote over the top of it so like it gains traction, like fucking what is that, man? Like come on, like come on, really?
Yep.
Please stop it. Like public service announcement, it looks fucking lame, it sounds lame, stop it.
Maybe some people just need those motivational quotes in their life. Maybe they just need that they need their blading clips and they need their motivational speeches.
No, dude, they don't. But maybe they do. Maybe that's the thing they need, and like more power to you. But that's my only hot take I'll give you.
I 100% back that.
Thank you.
On that note, I'll let you get back to your daily grind and dad life, and thank you very much for taking the time to do this today. It's been very entertaining. Yeah,
appreciate it. Thanks for hitting me up. I'm glad to get the opportunity, and I will. My last thing before I go is, if you're out there and you are into art and you're into design and you're into skating, make stuff. Make as much things as you can. Make things that suck. Make things that are awesome. Fail. Succeed, whatever it takes, but don't stop making things, because the new generation is going to need people that make things. Skating needs people that make. So go out, make stuff, make tees, make magazines, make videos, and enjoy yourself.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Take it easy.
Bye. Just want to give a brief shout out to my Patreon supporters. They're listed on the page now. If you would like to support my Patreon page, you can do so for as little as $3 a month. I have sneak peeks on there, photos, ramblings, Patreon exclusive videos, all of the above. So if you'd like to help out, it would be much appreciated.